Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means. Time for In the Paddock F1. Greeny and the cheese. Oh, baby, cars are back on track. Preseason testing is complete. Oh, it was nice to see cars on track. Well, wasn't it, boys and girls? Greeny, good day, sir.
Good day. I don't know. Listen, like the F1 world gets really weird this time of year, gotta be honest. Do we get excited about like the car reveals and the liveries as some people do, and then people get like pumped for testing? Just remind everyone last year as we were doing the testing show, as I just took a listen back, and before we get to that, if you enjoy what you're hearing, please tell a friend. Tell your friends. We greatly appreciate every single person listening, and we are incredibly grateful to every single download that we get. And it is incredibly helpful when you just tell your friends. If we can get a few more listeners every single week, it really helps what we do and continues the process of keeping us on the podcast here. Episode 133 where we're at now, so unbelievable as far as that goes. If you told me we were going to get well over 130 episodes when we started this journey, Cheese, you would have said I was out of my mind. But
Yeah.
but here we are, and of course, we're going to be cranking up the YouTube and literally going to be getting back on those YouTube shorts. So we're going to be putting little dribs and drabs out there. So support that as well. Greeny and the Cheese on YouTube. Check it out. Check out the old videos. And then all the cool new stuff we're going to be doing this year. Finally making that commitment to bring you guys as much F1 entertainment as possible. So yes, back to the point we were at earlier, which is, does testing matter? McLaren was like the worst team on track 12 months ago. And they win the constructors. So does any of this matter?
Not really.
Is it a dog and pony show?
It's a shakedown. Make sure the car works. You know, with a lot of new drivers, the new teams this year, people just getting used to the car, their new car. Nobody's got everything fully in full anger mode, but it is fun to see cars on track. Let's be honest. Let's just be real. It's fun to see cars on track.
Yeah. Also, seeing the rain in the desert, and you got all kinds of other stuff going on. Other stuff.
Yeah.
That was actually, yes, the cars on the track were great. We'll get to the other stuff in a minute. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Cheese, as you were saying.
No, it's just, does it really matter to what's actually going to happen in 2 weeks when we get to opening weekend? No. No, but guys getting used to their cars, going through their, testing programs that the teams wanted to go through, but that's about it. Nobody's got it. I'm sure nobody had everything in full anger mode, as you will see in 2 weeks. But it's just fun to see cars on track. Let's be real.
Absolutely. And I guess we'll start with, should we start with last year's drivers' champion? And I guess Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Is he going to be the first driver since Michael Schumacher? Actually, the only driver, Michael Schumacher, to win 5 in a row ever. Is Max going to win 5 in a row? And did testing indicate anything to tell you that Red Bull is not going to be challenging for both the constructors and Max Verstappen's, fifth straight?
You won't. This will be probably his hardest. Probably to try and win the championship. I mean, we'll see how everything shakes down. I think it's probably gonna be more teams involved in things this year, because there wasn't really any changes to the regs, so teams could just build off of what they've been trying to go through. Or you could see a lot of cars were taking bits and things off of the Red Bull from last year, especially like side pod designs and things like that. So That'll probably be his hardest challenge because more teams are probably going to be in it this year. But can you count Max out? No, I wouldn't.
Speaking of Max, and I think all the pressure you just put on the second Red Bull driver, hopefully no longer the curse of the second Red Bull driver, in Liam Lawson. 11 career Formula One starts, and now he's going to be riding alongside of Max Verstappen
Mhm.
of the Red Bull. How much pressure is on Liam Lawson right now to succeed, especially after last year's absolute debacle down the stretch for Red Bull?
He's got a ton of pressure on him. Let's be honest. He's got a ton of pressure. He's in the second Red Bull seat. Absolutely, he's going to have tons of pressure. We'll see if the curse continues, but he's got all the pressure in the world on him. He's
But
this
is that
teammate
pressure
to
on
Max
Liam Lawson
Verstappen.
fair? Is that pressure on Liam Lawson fair?
No, probably not. It's not. But welcome to Formula One, boys and girls. Like it's you got 20 of the best, and if you can't cut it, you're out the door. That's the bottom line. Formula One is cutthroat, man. Everybody's got
Absolutely.
pressure.
Listen,
You
the
gotta
top
you gotta put
dollar.
up. You gotta put up, or you're out. Bottom line, it's cutthroat. There's not no niceties. I mean, people struggle at the beginning of the season. You can see it hasn't happened for most of Formula One, but now you stink through the first 5, 6, 7, 8 races. You could get fired and you're out. The pressure's on. It's cutthroat, baby. Put up or shut up. Put up or
Absolutely.
you're
And
not gonna have a seat.
And I think it's gotten more cutthroat than ever. I think last year showed. I
Yeah.
think we had 24
Mm-hmm.
different drivers on track. A lot of seasons we've seen 20 or 21, or like a single race where a driver can't go or something like that. But we've seen the minimal amount of drivers over the last few seasons until 2024, where we saw 24 different drivers for all different types of reasons. Every team's trying to get a leg up on every other team. Speaking of leg up, before we get to McLaren, the reigning constructors champions here, let's get to Ferrari. Believe it or not, when I saw that this is Charles Leclerc's 7th season with Ferrari, I'm like, shit, I'm getting old, man. That's first of all. Number two is now you got Lewis Hamilton there. Is Lewis in the Ferrari going to win a race this season? That's, I think, the big question.
Well, I say yes. I say yes.
So besides
I mean,
being a Ferrari fan, what makes you feel that way?
Ferrari is going all in this year. I mean, they made the change from, the front end change going from the push rod to the pull rod, which changes the whole center of gravity of the car. Most teams weren't making drastic changes like that because this is the last year of the current regulations. Next year, the new regulations come in. So Ferrari made a major change with that. They made the major, went with side pod change. They're going all in. They're going to try and win the title this year. They are going all in. And so I definitely think Lewis will win a race. Lewis is getting very comfortable in the car very quick. I mean, we'll see what happens in 2 weeks, really, when it's full anger. But I think Ferrari's going for it. I think they're going to try and win the title this year.
Yeah, and I think that the questions that have arisen about Lewis Hamilton being 40 and comparing him to other 40-year-old professional athletes has really stuck in his craw there. And I think he just put out, I'm going to bring it up here, he put out a statement just the other day Quote,
Never be old.
I've had my own journey. You can't compare me to any other 40-year-old past or present Formula One driver in history because they are nothing like me. I'm hungry, driven, don't have a wife and kids, and focused on one thing, and that's winning. End quote. How do you feel about that quote from your boy now?
No.
That's your
Oh
boy,
yeah, that's
Cheese.
your boy. Yeah. Oh, you gotta definitely enjoy that. Man's got fire in the belly. Man wants the eighth title. Let's fricking go. Let's effing go. That's what I gotta say. Let's effing go.
And that would be unbelievable if he got the eighth title with Ferrari,
Man, I'd
because
be
that grin
I'd
of
be
yours would be
legendary.
ear to ear, baby.
No. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
Be
Absolutely.
absolutely legendary. Speaking of Ferrari, let's go talk about a former Ferrari driver, the most recent former Ferrari driver, and that's Carlos Sainz Jr. Can he bring Williams back to relevancy? He wasn't bad in testing.
No, he was
He looked
he was
good.
he looked good in testing. He was good. He looked good. Um Williams did make some changes to the car, to their car, they know, like, design wise. So, I mean, they definitely had, by finishing far back, they definitely had a lot more wind tunnel time than other teams. So, we'll see. But a lot of teams weren't going full in for car design changes because everybody's kind of holding off to save everything for the new regulations. That's going to be a big thing this year. How much will teams really develop the current car with the new regulations on the horizon and just saving their wind tunnel and test time to put it towards the 2026 car versus evolving your 2025 car. That's going to be a big, interesting part of the season.
No doubt about it. Because every time we have these, like, going into a reg change year, which we are now, and adding a team as well,
Mm-hmm.
plus Audi coming into the pick, it really is like super interesting year. Is this the beginning of the end of Red Bull? I know everyone's making a big deal. I know because there's just nothing to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Christian Horner and Red Bull getting booed at the event
That was
recently in the
I don't
UK.
even. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like that was. I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know. To me, I got zero excitement out of that. My response was, "What the f is this?" To be honest, that whole everybody revealing their liveries. I mean, it's not another car. What the paint job looks like doesn't get me excited. To be honest, doesn't get
Yeah,
my juices flowing when a car's in full anger mode, headed down the straight, heading into the first corner and slamming on the brakes. That's what gets my motor running. So, but not what the paint job looks like, and I don't know what they. It was like a show, like when Red Bull came out, they had 40 people or something like dancing behind the car. Like I don't know what the hell that was. It was just a scene. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't even know what the hell to make of it.
so
I don't
I
even know.
had to bring it up. I had to bring it up
I don't.
because it's almost
I
like this extreme boredom and this need for, because you can't replicate what goes on track on race day.
no.
You can't replicate it. So you try to attempt to replicate it, but sometimes it just comes off as half-ass ridiculous, which I think it did in this
Well,
case.
that's
And I think
exactly
Red
what it
Bull
was. Yeah.
deserves all the boos and jeers that they get. Christian Horner deserves plenty of boos and
Well,
cheers
it's
as well.
it's also
And
Red Bull's also unpopular. Max Verstappen is not the most popular driver because of the attitude that he portrays. I mean, if you get to know Max, he's kind of a pretty funny cat, but in the public world, he's not It's not like that. In when he's at the track, he's there for business. Yeah, so he's definitely gives a little bit of the persona that's not not likable as much as probably some other drivers are. He's also won multiple titles in a row. Christian Horner is a cocky SOB. He's definitely not a. If you're not a Red Bull fan, most people don't like his demeanor either. So that's what it is.
It's like
They're,
being a Yankee
they're
fan or
they
a
don't.
Lakers fan here
Yeah,
in the States, or a Cowboys fan or a Man U fan, or pick whatever team you want. Either you're a fan of them or you hate their guts. And that's just
yeah,
straight up sports. And I think you saw the same
yeah.
thing here. But of course, Red Bull is not doing themselves any favors by just bringing out some ridiculous dog and pony show. And the liveries, like I said, is so overblown. And the fact, listen, I'm sorry if you're listening and you're like, look forward to those livery
Good,
showcases every
good
year and the
for
big
you.
reveals. Good for you, and I'm glad you
Enjoy it.
enjoy that.
Enjoy
I
it.
just don't
Enjoy it.
get it. I'd rather hear
Yeah,
the engines than see
yeah,
the paint job,
yeah,
in my opinion. And I think
yeah,
you wholeheartedly agree.
yeah. I mean,
I,
Ferrari's going to be a red car. I, you know that. You already know that. Like so. I want to hear the Ferrari. I want to hear the motor. I want to see what the car looks like. Changing direction. You know, going through the corners. That's what I want to see. I don't want to. What the paint job looks like after a couple minutes. You're not sitting there looking at the paint job. All right, it's great. Let's
speaking of
see what the
paint
car does.
jobs, Speaking of paint jobs, let's talk about some papaya paint jobs because we have not mentioned yet
Mm,
Lando and Oscar, especially Lando Norris, looked maybe the best out there during testing. McLaren definitely did not look like they were a team on a mission, ready to take a
mm,
back-to-back constructors. And Lando Norris looks like he's a guy that wants to compete. I know we talked a lot last year that Lando just doesn't have what Lewis has or Max has or Sebastian Vettel had or Michael Schumacher, that like
mm-hmm,
extra.
mm-hmm,
But can Lando
mm-hmm,
Norris get it
mm-hmm.
done this year? Starting from
We'll see.
now in a position of a foot up, besides uh, sinking in the quicksand to start last season with McLaren.
We'll see. I mean, Oscar's there too, and Oscar seems to have that it factor, maybe even more than Lando. So we'll see. He's gonna have a challenge from his own teammate, along with the rest of the field. So we'll see. We'll see if he, maybe has found that next gear that the champion drivers have. We'll see. It's to be
Yeah,
seen.
and that's really going to make
He's gonna have
it
to.
really
He's
is
gonna
going
have
to
to
make
show
it.
it.
I think the first 3 to 4 races are probably the most interesting 3 to 4 races, as of right now, prior to the races that I think I felt in a long, long time. Because what are you going to get out of the, Leclerc Hamilton pairing? Is
Mm-hmm.
Liam Lawson going to get dusted, or is he going to be a podium contender right off the bat? And
Yeah.
how's McLaren going to look? And are they going to remember? Lando Norris finished 80 points in front or so. I don't know the exact number, but something like that, 70, 80 points ahead of Oscar Piastri. So it's not like there was some kind of super tight race as far as the points were concerned. So clearly Lando, kind of cooked him in points. I don't know how much strategy from the McLaren team weighed in on it versus skill.
Well, the end of the year, they definitely, were definitely favoring Lando to try and get him to that world title. It just they made that decision far too late. So
But did that make up
Oscar's
so
going
many
in.
points?
Oscar's going in this year. Definitely going to be hungrier than he was last year.
It's going to
That's
be
for sure.
interesting. And the way Oscar ended the year and some of the things he said towards the end of the season last year really made it seem that he did not and will not accept being a number two driver on any
No,
team. And I
but they
appreciate
will.
that, but it makes it
Yeah.
kind of tough for McLaren to have a clear strategy. But I guess, as you said, we will see.
Usually just for all teams in general, even going through history, the first few races, you let things kind of shake out and see where things are. But then at a certain point, you have to make the call to say this guy is in for the title, this guy is not. Um, that's just what you're going to have to do. That's what most teams do. This isn't the years of Hamilton and Rosberg a number of years ago when you knew it was going to be between one of those guys going in, or go back to the 80s when you had late 80s Prost and Senna on the
Prost and
same
Senna.
team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were just going at it on the track just because then they hated each other. So you could end up having that here too. That Oscar and Lando are just going to hate each other because the first guy you got to beat, no matter who you are in Formula One as a driver of any team, the first guy you got to beat is the guy on the other side of the garage. That's number one. You got to beat that guy. You got to beat your teammate. You want to be the one wants to be able to have the team put their everything behind you. So you got to beat your teammate number one. So we'll see how that shakes out over the first 5-6 races. Then teams are probably going to make their decision off of that. But until you have that point, and unless you have a clear, like a Red Bull, Max Verstappen's going to be number one versus Liam Lawson. That's a guarantee. Like, there's no debate on that.
Absolutely, but the next two best
Yeah.
teams, there's no clear number one
no.
on either of those
No.
teams, and that makes it absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fascinatingly interesting. Listen, we haven't even talked about Mercedes. We haven't even talked about my boy now, Ollie Bearman, who. We haven't talked about the rookies. We haven't talked about a lot of stuff, which we're definitely going to bring up next week because next week is, of course, the annual preseason pick'ems and predictions and all that jazz. So I hope you guys can join us next week for that. And then we're 2 weeks away, sir, from Australia and the start of
Yes,
the
sir.
2025 season. Super, super exciting. So we got that prediction show next week, 2 weeks to the Australia show. Listen, thank you for everyone who listens. Go check us out on YouTube. If you like what you heard, please tell a friend. It truly, truly helps us grow. And the more we grow, the more we can give back to you wonderful, wonderful people that are listening. And those who are listening overseas, of course, and in Europe, we're thinking about you as well over here in the U.S. We have not forgotten all of our friends overseas during these interesting times. So, especially those who've listened out of Kiev and things like that, we got your back. So no matter what you hear, this show definitely appreciates all of our European listeners, and we love you guys. And hopefully we can enjoy some recreational time together and some laughs together this season and forget about all the other crap going on and just watch some good old racing. I think you agree, Cheese.
Absolutely, 100%. Damn right.
Of course, if you want to reach out to us, in the paddock USA at gmail.com, in the paddock USA at gmail.com. Say what you got to say, brother.
I'll see you next week. Preview show. Buckle your seatbelts. 2 weeks. Get the show on the road. Let's get cars in full anger mode.
As always, sir.
Stay medicated, my friends.
We'll see you next week. Peace.